I can't judge at all.
Do I give off Scream 2 vibes?
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Guys, this is an honor. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Laurie, I'm going to start with you. Goes without saying you have such an incredible history with this theater, but I'm sort of curious to what degree that stays with you and impacts other performances. When you were doing film or television, were there moments on set where you kind of paused and went, that's such a Steppenwolf thing I just did?
Oh, yeah. Well, whenever I go big, I think of stuff. I'm reminded of stuff I did back here in the day. I started off doing theater. So it's where I feel the most comfortable and where I feel like I can get big and broad and over the top sometimes, but still, maintain a 1 foot in reality. And I get a big kick out of that kind of style. So I do sometimes bring it into the Connors right now. I mean, the rest of the cast will sometimes sort of dare me to go as big as possible, and I have no trouble. The running joke on the Connors is if I do something over the top on a Tuesday, because we don't rehearse on Monday, that they know it's going to grow into Friday when we do the taping. So they can't wait to see how big it gets after every.
But this might be a stupid comparison. Is there more similarity between doing theater and doing a sitcom than we would think? Because you have that live audience there.
You do, but that is where it ends. That's where the similarity ends. Yeah, it's all backwards. You do the curtain call at the top of the show, and the audience is wired up within an inch of its life by the warm-up guy, and so they know they're just supposed to laugh at anything and everything. So sometimes it can mess with the timing that you've worked out, over the week. No, I don't find it that similar. No.
Sure.
Sorry.
Joe, you have directed all over the world. You've directed in different theaters and in different factions. Whenever you know you're going to be directing here, how much does this stage, this theater, impact every decision that you're making? Or do you have to make decisions that, in theory, if this play were going to go somewhere else, that another director could step in and also do the same thing? Can you make it exclusive to Steppenwolf, or does it need to be a little bit more universal for the rest of the world?
That's interesting. This is really only my second time here working in this theater. And I love this theater. No, I think I take most of my clues from the play itself, and I just assume that if this play or any play has a further life, that there are ways to adapt and adjust. But
for sure. Laurie, you were talking about your great history here. I was wondering if you could compare your first time stepping on the stage to your most recent experience here, and is there anything that you have figured out over your career that would have been really great to know back then?
Well, first time in this building, because we've been in other buildings over the years.
I guess let's just say Steppenwolf period.
Steppenwolf period, okay. So that was stepping into an 88-seat house in the church basement up in Highland Park. And I hope to God I've learned a lot since then. It was a tiny space, and so everything was pretty, small and intimate. And then as our spaces got bigger, we were able to grow and grow. I think one of the things that I got to evolve in that way, a bigger and bigger audiences, that by the time I went to Broadway for the first time, I knew technically how to fill the space a little better than if I had just been thrown into it. So that was really helpful in my theater career, in that evolution of learning technique.
Sure.
That was really important, now that I think about it. And then, of course, the size of the performance. I've learned not to be afraid. I think
that's not an
my
easy
thing.
thing to figure
no,
out.
it isn't.
No.
It's probably where a lot of actors, they get intimidated and afraid and second guessing, and is there a right way or a wrong way? I think being in Steppenwolf, and because none of us knew anything, and we could make mistakes all over the place, which we did. I think it gave me kind of fearlessness in some situations where you know how you just have to jump in sometimes and be afraid to look idiotic, but knowing at the same time that that's going to be a handhold and you can build on it. So those initial steps, no matter how long I've been doing it or at what age I am, those are always scary. But I've learned that it's worth it, so I'm more easily able to go there.
Do you think the order in which you did things affected your experience? Some actors start in film and television and then make their Broadway debut, and you started in theater. Does that make a difference?
It made a big difference to me because I learned the technique of theater along the way, and I have a camera phobia, so it's always been difficult for me to feel confident in front of a camera, whereas I can feel more free on stage. So I also have a theory that actors who came up in theater, it's a little bit easier for them to shrink it down and perform in front of a camera. I think it's harder for people who have just done film and TV work to be able to fill a 1,000-seat house.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. From Rockford.
I am from Rockford, yes.
We always love to believe that if you're from here, if you're from the Midwest, that it sticks with you and it doesn't matter where you go. And I'm just sort of curious if you have found that. You have directed in fantasy worlds and very much reality and New York-based stuff that is a signature to New York. But do you find that there is that stamp of the Midwest?
I think in terms of the way that I work, and it's what Laurie, what first attracted us to working together, is there is a kind of a practicality and a no-nonsense Midwestern work ethic that we have, and that we recognized in each other. So yes, I think I do carry that with me, which some people respond to and some people don't.
What happens when someone doesn't? What does that look like?
Well, my job as a director is every actor needs something different. So you bring your little toolkit and you think like, oh, that person needs a wrench and this person needs a screwdriver and this person needs a cotton swab, and you figure out what they need and you kind of try to adjust while also keeping a sense of what the whole event needs.
I love that.
Yeah.
So some of my best friends in
I
the
need a
world,
wrench. No, I need a hammer.
You need a sledgehammer.
A sledgehammer and a saw if you have a saw.
Yeah, at the same time. With some of my best friends in the world are people who do this, people who do what I do in different cities or for different outlets, and I find that there's no cooler thing in the world than to see one of my best friends, like his interview goes viral or he gets a great moment, it gets picked up by the trades or what have you. So when you start out working with Joan Allen or John Malkovich or Gary Sinise, what is that like for all of you to see each other succeeding to such levels?
Nowadays?
Or off the top, or even now?
Yeah. Well, we know each other so well. We still, you meet at a certain age and you kind of always think of each other at that same age, So they'll always be my friends that we hung out in our 20s. And it's been so gradual over the years that different actors have split from Steppenwolf and found a lot of success. So that I've gotten sort of used to. But seeing one of them, who I know so well and have worked intimately on stage with in a movie or another TV show or even on stage, it does take me back to when we were just goofing around. And also there's a sense of pride, that even sitting in this building that we had a little part of putting together, and that the fact that this place is going strong on its own after so many years, is really, so I'm proud of all aspects of it, to have been a part of it.
I love that. I'm always curious as to whether it's an actor or a director or anyone in the creative industry, how your reaction to something being great is different. Like, we're in the audience and we're watching what you're doing and we look at each other and go, That's great. That is amazing. Is there a part of you that when the night's over, you can pause and go, yeah, that was great. That was fantastic. Do you guys get that same sort of, do you know the way that we know?
I think the only way we can judge is that we know when we find something great in a rehearsal room, but then we have to wait and see if it's going to translate to the audience. So we have to wait for the feedback from the audience to know if what we thought was any good was any good. They tell us.
Yeah, and there is a kind of a surfing element to it, which is there are nights where you really catch the wave, and the actors, the production, and the audience are all in sync, and you don't really know what that alchemy is, but you
aim for it every
You aim
day.
for it every night, but I think you do know when you caught the wave.
For sure.
Yeah.
But you're an actor as well, so what is a direction?
No,
You got Wikipedia credits, baby. What is a direction that you're able to give because you've been in the other seat where most directors who've maybe never acted would never think or know to give that direction?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's different for each actor in the room. I think sometimes I am able to, if I see someone hit a wall, I'm able to try to put on my actor brain and try to help them untangle it by putting myself in their place and thinking like, well, but most of the time, I feel when I sit in rehearsal, I don't feel like an actor anymore.
Because you're an amazing story and you're an amazing director.
Well, thank you.
Not every actor can direct. You know, it's a whole different language. Like I couldn't do it because never. No, I would be like, okay, I'm going to show you how to do it one more time.
She would give everyone,
And pull out the sledgehammer.
everyone's getting a sledgehammer, whether they like it or not. Laurie,
That's the only tool I
that's
got.
it. Just one giant, like the Mary Poppins bag, just all the sledgehammers. If you'll indulge me with a couple of nerdy questions, just as a fan of your work. Whenever people ask about, I love my mom and both my parents more than anything in the world. And when people ask me, what's your mom like? I've never met your mom. I always just go, she's Sheldon's mom. Did you ever see Big Bang Theory? My mom is Sheldon's mom. I'm from East Texas originally. That is the best way I could, I've literally sat in the room with her when Big Bang Theory's been on and gone, I'm just sort of curious the reaction you've gotten from people on Mrs. Cooper, because I feel like there are so many people that
They
relate.
love the way that character is written. It's so smart that they married, the religion and science with that mother-son. So smart the way, and the jokes are wonderful. And I love working off Jim Parsons anyway. So
You two were great, and it was so perfectly written that Mrs. Cooper would have been so great to be Leonard's mother. And Sheldon's
Yes.
mother would have been so
Then
great.
they flipped it.
And that's what I think one of the things that just made it so great, particularly
Yep.
when the four of you could share the screen together.
Yeah.
Because I had an older sister and I was the baby, I was raised being brought, whether I wanted to or not, to horror movies as a kid. Ended up falling in love with horror films. It's now one of my favorite genres. But I'll never forget being in 4th grade, my older sister taking me to opening night of Scream 2, which was just that's such a great moment for me. And I love your performance in that, and I love your reveal in that. I was just sort of curious what your memories on Scream 2 were.
I'm the killer.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
I know you're one of the killers.
You're right. You're right. It was great to work with Wes Anderson.
Oh,
And
Wes Craven.
Oh my God, Wes Anderson. Yeah,
wanna work with
I
Wes.
want
We're
to
gonna
work with
Wes
Wes
Anderson.
Anderson. Yeah, with Wes Craven. Yes. And what do I remember about it? God, it took forever to shoot that big, long finale. And I remember having to get fitted. I don't think I would do this ever again. I got shot in the head at the end of it. And so they made a mold of my forehead, and then they put a little dummy thing that would explode outward when they triggered it, and I'm laying on the ground, and there's this 500-pound camera above me, dangling above me, and they're going to trigger it, and I'm praying, please have put it in the right way. It's not going to explode inward, is it? It's going to go out,
Oh my
right?
God.
I mean, you wouldn't even have to do that nowadays,
Right. Yeah.
But I can't believe I let myself do that, be talked into that.
It was so great, though. Did you know off the top that you were going to be the killer, or were there ever...
Yeah. But I love the reveal of why it was me, and I love my fake reporter's name was Debbie Salt.
Debbie, good pull.
Love that.
That's I don't know if you know this or not. Debbie Salt or Mrs. Loomis is widely considered to be the best of the screen killers.
Of the killers.
Which is saying a lot. And as we wrap up, I'd love to know, because whenever I was bragging about getting the chance to interview you, one of the things I thought was interesting was 10 people could come up and say, you've got to talk to her about this, and name 10 different things.
Oh, that's really nice.
That's
That's really flattering.
And I think that's a great compliment for an actor to hear. When someone's approaching you on the street, when you see someone making a beeline, can you look at them and go,
I
Roseanne?
never write.
No, are you really?
I never write.
Interesting.
No. Some people I know, I think will be, oh, here comes a Connors person. And they'll say, Getting On was my favorite show. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm always wrong. I can't judge at all.
Do I give off Scream 2 vibes?
Where we're going, we don't need roads.